back in 1998 when I interviewed to become the rabbi, one of the rabbis at Hakafa. Linda and David Weinstein had Rona and me over for dinner. We talk about this in this episode you're about to see, as you have the chance to see just a little bit of the relationship between Linda and me, such an important person in my life and in the life of this congregation. Linda Weinstein, I'm so glad you decided to do this. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's life in beautiful, wonderful Wilmette?
Inside all the time, all the time. In fact, Anita Gerber said she thinks I'm like the number one COVID rule follower she ever met.
Oh yeah, you haven't gone out at all?
No. To go pick up food, to put food in the trunk, that kind of stuff. Drop things off at the post office, through the drive-through, not going in anywhere.
How's that felt for you after 9 months?
I like it.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that because the one question I have for you has to do with that. But before I ask the question, why perfect?
Why perfect what?
Why has it gone so well for you? What's it been like for you?
Why has it gone? I I'm not real social.
Uh,
Um, so this is a great excuse not to do things I don't want to do.
Okay.
Um, you know,
So
not going. Go ahead.
I'm so glad because my question for you to start off was, so Rona and I were talking this morning. As you know, I bring it up with you every 10 years or so. That March of 1998 was dinner at your house when Rona and I were coming to interview at Hakafa. And I remember that the Gubmans were there, and I remember that the Grosses were there. Who else was there?
Don't
Do
don't. I don't even know the name of my children anymore.
Okay, so
I
his,
I don't remember names.
so I remember there. I think the Joels might have been there. I'm not sure if David was there or not. He could have been.
A lot of people that I felt close with.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was really, and it was a real, and I remember I see you have this high school, this eighth grader, maybe he was in eighth grade at the time, or maybe beginning of
Jeremy.
high school, Jeremy, who was had maybe
High
an
school.
earring, but he definitely had spiked hair with
Oh,
blonde
that
on
was
the top.
Jeremy.
I
That
know
was
that.
Jeremy.
I know that. And then you had this kind of nebbishy musician middle child, right? And then which is Aaron, and and Anna must have been 8 years old at the time, and she was dressed in a dress, and I think she was in pigtails or something like that. She was dressed really kind of formally, I remember. So I remember this. I remember the dinner really well. And when so the reason I start with this is that since I have known you, and I hope it's honest to say that we know each other pretty well. Whenever I think of you, the first word that pops into my head is home.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah. So what does home mean to you, and why does that make sense?
Um, Home to me is like love. It's like my cocoon. It's where love happens. It's the foundation of who I am.
Yeah.
Started way back with, my mom, my dad. My dad used to walk around the house and say, yeah, I was little. And I remember him walking around the house saying, Blanche, I love these girls. I mean, he would just say that. There were five of us
Yeah.
with
And,
one bathroom, five girls, my parents, and one bathroom.
yeah, how'd that work for you?
I don't remember. I think that's why I had to buy a big house.
So you could have more than one bathroom.
Yeah, yeah. And now none of them, like nobody's here.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so that's the other thing. So I want to come back to this home thing. You're number four of the five.
mhm.
That's what I thought. What was your role as number four? And when you see your relationship to each of the five of you, what was your space in the five?
My space is I was the funny one. I was also the scared one. I was, the baby.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. And then my younger sister came along when my mom was 45. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I was, and right now it's just like get on Zoom and we all talk to each other, and you know, we all get along. I mean, it's a my mom was that love connection.
Yeah. So say more about that. I didn't know your dad.
No, I hardly knew my dad.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
When did he die?
he died. I was 21.
Okay, it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I
and
thought so.
he had Alzheimer's for many years.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it was because back then they didn't know what Alzheimer's was, but that's what it was. And so he was sick for a really long time.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So your mom was in the greatest way of saying it, not in the negative, which could also mean was a piece of work,
Oh yeah.
right? And she was such the piece of work and all the beauty of that. Talk to me about your relationship with her and the influence that she had on you.
My mom. Wow. My mom taught us how to love. She was Miss Unconditional Love. She was so scared of everything. Her mother, she lived with her mother and father and my father and us for so many years. And her mother, my bubby, who I named Anna after, Anna, um, just did everything for her.
Hmm.
And so she was afraid to do anything. And I grew up with that. I saw something going on, like there was a fear of something. So my reaction to that was if I'm afraid of something, it makes me do it.
Oh, interesting. And so
Yeah.
you said you're funny and you have a lot of fear. So what kinds of things did it make you do?
Uh, I was school phobic when I was 5. I did not want to go to school.
Huh.
I cried every morning. They gave me belladonna back in 1950s to get me to calm down and go to school. I
I don't know what
didn't.
belladonna is. It's before my time.
Oh, it's like Xanax, but
Speed?
no.
The
That
opposite.
was,
Oh,
um,
downer. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so they gave me belladonna to get me to calm down and go to school. And we lived with my mom's cousin, and my mom's cousin was standing outside of my kindergarten window, which was an outside window in Chicago public schools, and stood there all day so that I would stay in school. So what did it make me do? What did it make me do? I became a teacher. And there I spent years in school.
Okay. Why teaching? Besides the fact that you were afraid to go.
Why teaching? I don't know. Um I just love, I majored in English literature, and I got I just decided that teaching. I love kids,
Yeah.
as you know, and that was a great combination. So that's what I did.
You taught in the public schools?
Yeah, and I started off when David and I got married at the age of 21.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you've already been dating for 19 years by then, so that makes sense. Go ahead.
we started dating our freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
Um, so I moved to Michigan with him when he was going to Michigan State. When we just got married, he was a graduate student, and I started subbing in Lansing inner city schools,
Mhm.
and finally found a job and was teaching in Lansing, and then moved back here and kept going.
Was it high school or elementary?
When I was subbing, it was high school, and then I got a job in 8th grade.
Yeah, yeah. That's so you in your eighth grade. That's just
Oh,
it's perfect for you and perfect for them and nuts.
I call them my puberty pigs. I used to tell them all the time. I'd say, "Okay, guys, quiet down, you little puberty pigs." Laugh, and we would, and they would listen and quiet down, and
Yeah.
I love that grade. Yeah.
So, family is important to you. Family is you. Home is you. We've already talked about that for our 10 minutes, for 9.5 minutes of that. What do you see in America today as the state of the family?
Oh, so controversial. You're going to make me say it.
No, why don't you just be honest? Say it. Say what you're
I,
thinking.
I just think you could do it right. You could work and have a family, but there, I tried to do it. I couldn't do it. I could not. And it might have something to do with who David is, because he's a workaholic.
He's a slouch. I know he doesn't do anything.
Nothing. He's upstairs right now, just watching television. Yeah. Yeah. So I tried to work once Jeremy was born, and it was just so hard. It was, I had one babysitter, and then she would quit in the middle of the year, and finally I went to my principal and I said, I can't do this. I can't leave Jeremy just haphazardly in places. And he said to me, bring him to school
Hmm.
and we will have the eighth graders watch him.
Wow.
Well, yeah, on their study hour, a study hall, while you find a new babysitter. And
Wow.
yeah, and
Hmm.
so I did that, and I found a great babysitter, and she lasted till she had a baby, and then I had another, I don't know, month before school was over, and I said, I think the last day of school, Jeremy threw up all over me, and I'm like, oh, good, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I'm
Hmm.
staying home.
Hmm.
I couldn't do it. I don't know. So there's something about needing someone at home to teach your kids to be there. I think it just gives them a foundation of comfort to
Why is
know.
that controversial?
Oh, just because it's I think it's the time when people want to. I don't know. Women go to work and it's good, but it's all in the women. It's hard to say, but there's men go and get their jobs and do their thing, and women have the family to deal with. I don't know why that is, but it is. And
But it doesn't have to be. You didn't say. I mean, now we're going into that space. So I will go back. I'm going to go there with you in a minute.
okay,
But when
okay,
you said that, what you were alluding to is that it was important for someone to be home. Do you think it's important for the mother to be home, or do you think it's important for an adult to be home?
an adult to be home, an adult that loves that child like a mother, a father, or a grandparent, or an aunt, or But yeah, somebody who loves that child as much as
Do you
a
think that
parent
that
does.
do you think
And who
that
is that? Mother, father.
do you think that mothers and fathers love differently?
I think your brains are wired differently. I a good example is a friend of mine who when they had their baby, um, she said, I'm going to go in I have things to do and I'm going to go do my thing and I'm not going to watch my husband take care of the baby. And so she was in the other part of the house and she kept hearing the baby go, wham, wham, wham. And she's, I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look. And finally she couldn't stand it. And she went in and she saw her husband watching television and with his foot bouncing the baby thing bouncing, and every time he bounced it, the baby's head was hitting the bottom of the table. And it was like, you
What's
know,
wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I don't know. So what's your point? What's your point?
it's just I don't know. I know Jeremy is an amazing, I watch him and I'm like so amazed at how great of a dad he is.
Mhm.
And my deal was, David went to work and came home and was a whole different kind of dad than Jeremy is.
It's a really interesting statement to me, Linda, that you think it's controversial to suggest, and I'm going to read into it and tell me I'm wrong, to
Okay.
suggest that it is okay in today's day and age for a woman to decide to want to stay home and be the caregiver at home. That's what I hear you saying. Is that what you're saying to me, and that you're afraid to actually say that?
Yeah, kind of, because yeah, you kind of get pushback on that.
So push back on the pushback. Darn it, that you've got all 82 people that are going to watch this. Push back on it. Come on. Why is that what's the
I don't.
pushback?
I just think that women don't get the maybe because I was raised in the in the liberation era,
Mhm.
and people forgot that women's lib didn't mean you had to go to work. Women's lib meant that you get a choice,
Hmm.
but that got lost somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it became, if you didn't work, like, who are you?
Well, so here's the pushback to that pushback.
Okay.
So in Judaism, traditionally, women are not bound to fulfill time-bound commandments, right? Because of responsibilities, and it doesn't mean that they can't fulfill them. It means that they don't have to. However, because men, it was a patriarchal society, right? Toward to men, don't have to became can't.
Mhm.
So a woman's choice when women weren't either when women would take the exhibit the choice or choose not to, men would take advantage of that and prevent women from doing it. So that's my pushback to you in terms of what you just said, right? Is that you're right. The ultimate feminism is a woman can choose to stay home and raise a family and live that life and not be judged by it.
Right.
And yet I could hear, and I'm not trying to mansplain, it's just for pushback,
Yeah.
right? Is that if you don't take advantage of that, right? If you don't assert yourself in how we perceive the world to need to be in terms of quote unquote equal, that you're never going to get that chance. And women are always going to, therefore, going to be stuck in the kitchen.
Right. Totally. I totally agree with you. And I have a great daughter-in-law who pushes back really well. And she's angry that women don't get support for, working but having a child at home.
Yeah.
That's the society problem. That people who want to work, even work part-time, where's the community help? And that's what makes it so hard, I think.
I think that our economy, and this is me not knowing what I'm talking about. So, all of you,
Yeah,
all
oh, no,
82 of
I'm
you, push
yeah,
back. I
yeah,
think that the ideal way for our society to move forward and succeed is to pay enough of a living wage for there to be a need for only one wage earner per home, and that therefore one person could stay at home, and it wouldn't in a society in which the family could choose that. I think you're sticking on me. Did you hear that whole thing? So
I did.
yeah, so that we could have that society would support one parent staying at home, whichever one, right?
Yeah,
Now we're not there.
no, that's so
Yeah.
idealistic and
Yeah.
perfect and perfect.
So given the fact that you believe the right to choose, right, was the hallmark of feminism of the 60s and 70s, and seeing how it's evolved, do you consider yourself a feminist?
Yeah,
Say
yeah.
more about that.
I just think that women, um, because well, okay, there's so many things going on. Um,
You mean in your head?
yeah, in my head. Back in the 70s when we were protesting and wanting, equal pay, and it's still not happening. Um, I'm not an activist. I'm just, I've got my ideas and I do what I have to do around me. But um, there was a great, it wasn't great, a documentary about feminists. I just watched it and I can't remember
Oh,
the
is
name.
Mrs. America, you mean?
It's America. Yeah. Yeah. Some of it wasn't so good, but yeah, you watch that and you say, wow, we're not even close. Look how many years have gone by and it hasn't happened. Um, and Becca, my daughter-in-law, reminds me all the time of what she's going through with Charlotte compared to, I mean, it doesn't seem much different.
Hmm.
The wages and the problems that women face when they want to go back to work.
So
So,
now I got three questions for you in my head based on what you just said.
mhm.
Um, so the first one is you mentioned that you're not an activist, but you're a feminist. Is it possible to be an ist, whether it be a feminist or an anti-racist or whatever the ist is? Is it possible to be an ist without being an activist?
Yes, I think so because um,
Why is it enough for just what you think? I mean,
well, because it's you're not a little, you're not just one person. There's a whole world revolving around you that you talk to people, you hopefully make an impact on people, and I'm just yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So the other part about that then is, and I asked this when I did the interview with Nalani Ween, the 21-year-old. If you haven't seen it, do it. At the end,
I
I
saw,
asked her.
I saw some of that. Yes.
And I'm not just trying to promote it. She was a phenomenal interview, and she's a phenomenal human being. I asked her about feminism through the eyes of a 21-year-old woman,
Hmm.
and I asked her, since you brought up Mrs. America,
Hmm.
um, is it possible in your view of feminism? Is it possible to be? Would you consider somebody who is anti-choice, a woman who's anti-choice, anti-active feminist movement, anti-ERA? Right. I can't remember the name of the woman from Mrs. America right now. Mrs.
Schlafly,
Right.
Schlafly.
Would you consider her a feminist? Even if she wouldn't consider herself one, is somebody who stands for everything against feminism as you promote it, but is standing up for it as a woman. Do you consider her a feminist?
I consider her someone who was so afraid of feminism. She was so afraid of it. Um, you know, she, she went to school. She did those kinds of things. I think that she used that energy to join the feminist movement.
Hmm.
Um, a lot more would have gotten done, but I think she was so afraid of what would happen to her life and women's lives if they had choices like that.
So what if a woman, and this is the question I asked Nalani, what if a woman chooses politically everything that is an anathema, a perceived anathema to the feminist movement? Can she be considered a feminist if it's choice?
I see you're saying. I see what you're saying. Um, so choice allows you to choose. No, I don't think she could be a feminist because just because she chooses not to be a feminist doesn't make her a feminist. Just because she has the choice and she takes that choice, um, the women's movement gave her that choice, you know? And
Yeah.
so she chooses something, but she didn't choose to pursue or to, you know, she didn't choose to pursue what the feminist movement was trying to offer her. So no, I don't think so. No, she was not a feminist.
So this sounds like I'm trying to gotcha you, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So why is it that you get to choose to stay home, which is viewed by feminists today in your perception of being anti-feminist, and you can call yourself a feminist, but when you see people who are f- more conservative than you are in terms of their approach, so what's the difference between the choice you make and the choice they make? Again, I'm not trying to gotcha you. This is purely in
No,
terms
no,
of
no. I,
conversation.
I think it's because her choice is to block mine. So her choice to be a non, she not only made a choice, but she was trying to block
Other women's choices.
other women's choices.
So
That's what it was.
so you cannot be um, anti-choice and be a feminist. If the goal of and the anti-choice movement is
I
to
think
block a woman's right to choose to take care of their bodies.
I think right. I think if you're a feminist, then you are saying that you have the choice to decide your own body, what your own body should do. You have the choice to. I mean, that's what the definition of of the ERA, the feminist movement was.
Mhm.
So if you're going to be against that, then how then you're, just you're against the definition of feminism.
So taking RBG out of it, because that's too easy of an answer.
Oh wait, she's right there. She's
Oh, is
always,
she?
there's a picture of her always over my shoulder.
Okay, then maybe I'll allow it. I think that's. I mean, so I because I know
Joe
the answer would
Biden.
be.
I have a picture of Joe Biden and RBJ. Yeah, right on my shoulder. One's on this one, one's on that one.
So she picked the wrong time to die.
Oh,
May her
please.
memory continue to be a blessing. Um, is there a woman today who's living that exemplifies in the American arena feminism par excellence to you?
Mhm. I I think I think any woman who is striving to do what she wants to do. I mean,
Hmm.
I think yes, anyone who's striving to do what she wants to do in pursuit of her dreams um and not blocking someone else's dreams. You know, Kamala, um, um, Elizabeth Warren,
Hmm.
mm, you know, those
And
kind
yet
of
she
people.
persisted, and still she persisted.
And you know what? Blanche, my mother, believe it or not, she was a feminist.
Hmm.
She grew up at a, not a feminist time, but with her girls, I mean, do what you want. Go do what you want.
Do you think that men are more ready for it now than we were 10 years ago? Do you think we're more accepting? Are we more? What are we?
I absolutely think so. I think it was a shock back in the 60s and 70s,
Hmm.
and it was a lot of pushback. I think it's way more acceptable now.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't think men think twice. I mean, David's office is full of women lawyers, and law schools, are accepting women when they weren't doing it back in the 60s. Yeah, absolutely.
So taking that one step farther,
Mhm.
taking 2020 out of it for a moment,
Yeah.
looking at America from your perspective, is it? Can we look? Do you sense a forward movement or a backward movement moving forward from here, in your opinion?
Okay. Taking 2020 out.
Well, I mean, COVID and all that stuff.
No, and Trump.
Or I guess you can't take it out of that, but I remove that part of the question.
Okay.
Looking forward, how do you feel about America a year, 3 years, 5 years down the
I'm
pipe?
hopeful. I'm hopeful.
S-
I wouldn't be hopeful if this election went differently.
hmm,
But I when Biden got in,
yeah.
I think he got in. Um, when Biden got in, I sobbed all day. I didn't realize how stressed I was
So did you
before
do that on Tuesday/Wednesday, or did you do it on that Shabbat when they finally called the election?
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, I think it was.
Wasn't that a beautiful 36 hours?
Oh, yeah. We needed that. We needed that. It was a breath, I said to David, I didn't realize how I wasn't breathing for so long. I really just like, like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I feel a hope. There's always two steps forward, a step back. That's going to happen always. But yes, I see things getting better.
What does that hope mean for you? Explain it a little bit more.
The hope is that we have the Black Lives Matter won't be needed anymore. Um, that that people won't be that people won't be working at jobs and not getting paid what they should be getting paid. I mean, I don't understand why teachers get paid, I don't know, 45,000 now to start, and lawyers get paid 160 to start. I don't get it. Like teachers get their master's degrees, no different than I don't get it. I know
So
it.
yeah, I was called out I was invited and I didn't go to the picket lines of the nursing home facilities that were on strike last week. That was just settled on Monday, and I
Mhm.
wasn't going to go because of COVID. I wanted to lend my support. It is inconceivable to me that people who've been working at nursing homes for 15 years are getting paid 12 and $10 an hour, not getting the right kind of protection and having to pay out of their own pockets for hazard stuff.
Yeah.
They weren't getting hazard pay. It blows my mind.
It's
$15 an hour is 30 grand a year.
it's not even enough.
I know. It
Not
blows my
even
mind to your point.
Yeah.
So you see us on a trajectory perhaps of working on some of that inequality.
Yes. I'm hopeful.
Wow.
Not it's not going to happen in 5 years.
Doesn't have to, but you want to see it, you see the trajectory moving towards that.
I do. I do. Maybe it's naive. I don't know, but who we have now coming up, I think some things are going to happen for a while.
So I want to go back to the idea of home for a minute,
Okay.
because I think home was a little bit too sterile of a description when I think of you. And
Okay.
until you just said what you just said, it made me think of the word I really meant, which is Hamish,
Oh,
which is Yiddish for home,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because for you, my impression of you, or the feeling every time pops into my head, is not just about home, which is kind of sterile, but this genuine warmth that is incredibly Jewish as well. Right? You've got a real neshama, a real Jewish soul to you, right? In your cadence.
It's funny you say that because I didn't before.
Yeah. So what do you mean?
Growing up, uh, my parents, because they were so into assimilation in America. My grandparents came from Russia,
Mhm.
and my grandmother didn't even read. My grandfather, read Hebrew. And we would sit and my grandmother would make up holidays just to have us all come over. Oh, this is so and so. We would, this is how we learned, family, what family meant. Um, but because my parents were so wanting to assimilate, um, they hung, they they did a Christmas. They never had a Christmas tree, but they hung socks. I don't know what you call them on the
Stockings.
mantelpiece.
Stockings.
Stockings while I was growing up.
Hmm.
We had Christmas morning while I was growing up.
So where did this? So did you did you get gifts?
We got gifts.
Oh yeah. Did you get a puppy?
Never got a puppy. My dad tried to get it. Yeah, my dad tried, and my mom said he brought one home and it's back. Yeah. So
Okay, so then if so, where did the Jewish come from?
I think Hakafah.
Really, say more about that.
So I grew up and we had Christmas morning. I didn't know what it meant. It was just stockings. And
Well, yeah, Jesus was Jewish, so that's okay. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then I think after Jeremy was born, um, we started. Okay, I think when he was in first grade or maybe second grade, we started looking for a congregation. I had no Jewish. I knew nothing about Judaism. And so when I was going off and I was teaching, and I would say to David, who had a confirmation, I would say to David, I know there's a Jewish holiday coming up. I need to take it off. What do I write down, for teaching? What do I write down? What holiday is it? And from there, then we found Hakafah. We looked for Jeremy to go to Hebrew school. And we found Hakafah.
Pretty
And
early on in the 80s.
let's see, so Jeremy was born 81, so yeah, 87,
Okay. Okay.
88. We had a neighbor who was a Hakafah person, so oh, come with me Friday night. And so we went and we fell in love with the feeling. Um, and Ruth, I fell in love with Ruth. She had an edge to her that, it just spoke to me.
Mm, yeah.
and and so we joined. And so it grew from there.
So, and still, I'm going to push back. I'm pushing back on you because and it's not fair because it's you and not me. But what I hear you saying is not that you found it, but that you came into it. And what I mean by that is, look, what I know of your mother, secular and Christmas stockings, as you might say, right, is that she had that also that Jewish neshama side of her, what I knew of her towards the
Mhm.
end of her life. And so you were carrying it within you.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
It was there.
yeah. And
It
I
was.
mean, yeah. And so you brought Jeremy into it, and
Mhm.
then you created this sense of Jewish space in your home.
It it was a process. Back when Robert was back when Robert was the rabbi at Hakafah, um, he was way more direct than you were when he needed something. So we were in the room one day, having services on Sunday morning, and he says, "Okay, I need someone to teach ninth grade Linda. You do it." That's basically, that's basically how it was done.
I should have learned from him.
Yes, yes, you do it, and it's done. And then nobody said no, I don't think. And so I started teaching, and it just, well, Anna said to us, here's Anna wanting to, not wanting to, but becoming a rabbi. And Anna said to us that part of her, part of her soul was that we went every Sunday. And because David and I were both teaching, she just felt like she was part of this whole being of Hakafah. I mean, we came back to Hakafah. Anna was born December 16th. And, January, what, 3rd or something, you go back and Sunday school. And Robert said, so, what did you do over holiday? What in the big room? And everyone's, oh, we went to this place, we went to that place. And I took Anna by one hand and I held her up, like, and here's what we did. And from that day on, I mean, she was a
It's
Hakafatian.
like the Lion King with Simba.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, maybe that's why she loves Lion King so much. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah,
And
it's
so it
not.
grew from there. It was just, it's maybe something in me that I connected with. It just came, it was there, and that was the connection.
No, I don't want to exclude David from this because he was your partner in all this, and he brings an
Yes,
element of it as well. And
absolutely.
and seeing the three kids that you have produced, right, who in each of his and her own way have committed Jewishly. I mean, Jeremy, I know it was important for him to find a Jewish community in Los Angeles. I don't know if they've been successful in that, but I know that they've looked really hard.
Yeah.
Aaron is the embodiment of the old Jewish soul, right? Is if he's hanging out with Linda Lavin and she seems young to him, right? You know what I'm saying? Is that they're an old married couple that aren't married, but that he's always had that, and you've described him that way, and he's always been that
Old
way.
soul. Mhm.
And Anna, who is not just she hasn't embraced it as much as allowed it to envelop her, and then wanting to have other people enveloped by it. Um, it says that something you did is incredibly infectious, and I know that part of it is your embracing of Hakafah,
Mhm.
okay, but it's also your embracing of whatever it is in your home, which is what I'm calling Hamish.
I hear what you're saying. It was a lot of, we didn't have Shabbat every Friday night.
Mhm.
Especially when the kids had a million things to do, but we tried that. They always say Shabbat, having Shabbat is what keeps the Jewish home
Yeah.
alive. Um, and they understood. They understood that when they went out on Friday night that it was still Shabbat. Um, but I don't know. We joked a lot. Like Jeremy would, I remember he was a freshman in high school and he said, I don't know who to take to, I don't know who to take to the fall dance or whatever. And it was like midnight and he was just stressed out. And I opened the New Trier phone book and I just named every girl who was Jewish in the phone book. I go, well, you take, what, and just little joke things like,
Yeah.
Jeremy, if I like the girl, he knew what I meant. If you like the girl that you take, you get the good car, that kind of stuff. Just
So it was important for you that that they be with someone Jewish. Why?
mm,
I like your mug.
oh, yes, Jeremy bought this for me. Um, there you go. I think I have one of those. Um, why was it important? I think it just, when people talk about diversity, that you should have diversity in your life. And my attitude is, if you marry a Jewish woman or man, that you are part of diversity. Because if you water away Judaism, you can marry someone who's not Jewish and still raise wonderful Jewish children. But it's important to have a Jewish home. I don't care if you marry, Jewish spouses, but if you have a Jewish home, you create diversity because then you are diverse in the world. You stand with, this Jewish group, and that Jewish group is part of diversity. You
And
know
here,
what I'm saying?
yeah, no, and I'm going to come back to this. I want to jump out of that for one moment and just say, now here's the second time you are hesitant to talk about a woman that chooses to stay home and raise her children. And you're hesitating, as I ask this question, to admit that you wanted your kids to marry Jewish because our trends aren't going in that way right now.
Mhm.
So I'm just struck by the
It's just okay because I have people in my life who I love who did not marry Jewish, but they're raising Jewish children, and I don't want to come across as saying that someone's not as good as someone else who's Jewish. That's all.
look,
You
and
know what I
if they
mean?
would have raised their kids not Jewish, you would love them still, and so that's not a debate, right? But
Yeah.
that there is that people that are consider themselves progressive or liberal. I'm gonna let me say that about you, if I might.
Hmm.
You trend that way, who still have some values that are contrary to that, and are afraid to say them for fear of offending.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And
That's it. You're pinpointing exactly. I don't want to offend some people who I totally love who didn't marry Jewish.
or back to the issue, or who don't agree that women should be able to choose to stay home if they want to, right? So are you saying something? I don't want to go to the words cancel culture, which means I'm about to go there.
Yeah.
Do you believe that that's real, or do you think that's why is it that you can't feel comfortable in your own opinions with the people you love? Why can't we have a difference of opinion and know that you're not offending people?
Blanche, I don't know. I think a lot of it is my mom, like, don't upset them. We grew up with this, like, don't upset people. Don't.
Hmm.
I think it could be that simple,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't look to offend people. I don't like to offend people either. I
Yeah,
get that.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and it's the
It's
same. What? Oh.
it's just hard. I find it harder to talk now in this time period than before because so often I'll say something and then I get caught on this word that I chose.
Yeah.
So
So you wonder on the grand scheme, which I'm not going to go there, is that if it's possible to have a democracy if people are afraid to say what they actually feel. I know that folks at Hakafah, when we have bigger meetings, if they don't agree with what they perceive to be the gestalt of the community, don't feel like they can say what they really feel. And that worries me because, the ultimate idea of Hakafah is not to be the liberals on the street. It's to create a space where everyone feels like his or their voice can be heard and shared and valued, regardless of what people think. And so I worry about democracies small and large and communities small and large if people don't have the right to say what they feel. I think there's a limit to that, right? The fire in the movie theater, right? You don't want people to feel comfortable to spew hatred.
yes.
I don't know how to draw that line, but it does concern me that even you in this space with our 82 viewers
Mhm.
are hesitant to say it's okay to say I want my grandkids, I want my kids to marry someone Jewish or to raise a Jewish home because I think that adds to the diversity of the world. That was a
So
very long monologue. I apologize.
yeah, no,
So go on, respond to that.
I don't know what to say to that.
Okay.
It's just it's just really who I am so deeply about, just not. I think if I heard someone at a Hakafa meeting saying something I didn't agree with, I don't think I would hesitate to say something,
Hmm.
you know.
Well, that's also because you feel comfortable enough in the community and your values align with the majority of people. If you were anti-choice, see, I'm not even calling it pro-life.
Yeah,
If you were anti-choice, do you
yeah.
think that people have a space if we were talking about supporting Planned Parenthood, something with Planned Parenthood?
Okay.
Do you think that someone whom they would call themselves pro-life would feel comfortable speaking up in that space and without being judged or shut down? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that person would feel. How would I know if they would feel
Yeah.
comfortable? It depends on, really, we're talking personality at this point.
It's
I
that
think.
too.
Yes. So
It's that too.
some people are, would say what they think, and some people wouldn't.
Yeah.
It depends on, there's so much baggage in everybody's body, about why they say what they do, why they don't feel they could say what they could say. Maybe when they were young, they were told, shut up, go away, and
Yeah.
so they don't say what they want to say. And I don't know if that's something you need to worry about.
I'm not. I just throw it out there as in reaction to this whole back and forth we're having. Um,
I mean, like at meetings, what I'm saying is,
yeah,
if someone doesn't say what they think, that's their baggage, and they
yeah.
have to work that out themselves. And
Unless there's an energy we're sending out.
unless there's an energy you're sending out, but I don't think so. I think when I think of Hakafa, when I think of Hakafa, I think of a community that,
Yeah,
it's pretty open.
yeah. So going back to Judaism and by extension your family. Um, Jeremy's been pretty successful, if not very successful, in the film editing world out in California.
Hmm.
Aaron's been fairly, if not very successful as a jazz violinist and is continuing to expand
Hmm.
his repertoire with his comedy and his other work. He is so deadpan brilliant.
Oh,
Jeremy is very talented, and I mean, Aaron carries on that neshama, that Jewishness in his being. Um, Even as I picture him being the most secular of the three of your
I
kids.
know. Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then you've got your third Anna, your love. They're all your loves, who's going to be a rabbi. How do you feel about having a rabbi kid? You knew you were going to get that question. How do you
You
feel about
know,
that?
yeah, all three of my kids, I'm proud of every single one of them.
Mhm.
I think they all follow their passion. And David and I are just like thrilled that, I think if you don't follow your passion, you end up being a pretty miserable person.
Hmm.
Like either you go through depression or you're somewhere along the line you're not happy, but they all followed their passion and they all make us very proud. And I kind of could sit back, like, go ahead, let's see you do, So Anna being a rabbi, I'm so thrilled that she's doing what she loves. And she was the one who had the hardest time figuring out what she wanted to be when she grew up. She saw her brothers both following this passion, and she would and she, it was always in her, but she always had it in her, but she just didn't know how to find it. And I just remember her one day coming home from a march for Israel. I think she was in ninth grade, and she came home and she was so excited. And she was like, I know, I know. It's got something to do with Judaism. I know. And that was it. And from that point on, that's what yeah. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
If Blanche was alive, oh my gosh. I know your mom lived at Gidwick.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about the elevator group.
Yes, I do know about the elevator group.
Right. And they would sit around on their couches, and the people would walk in, and they would just, she just was like, wow, I'm doing this. She just, my grandson is filming this movie, and my other son is doing this, and my grandson and my granddaughter is a grandpa. She would be in heaven.
She'd be rolling the roost. She's probably doing that wherever she is right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And God's probably pretty bored with it by now, but that's
Oh
okay.
my gosh.
All right, I got one more question for you because this has flown by.
Oh
My
wow.
last, yeah, can you believe it? My last question for you. There's so many more I have for you, Linda. I love you so much, and I always have. And your family has always meant the world to me. And one of the reasons we came to Hakafah, besides the fact that you would all take us, was because of that dinner at your house.
Oh,
And it was just because, and we talked, Ron and I talked about it. Um, you and David and your family just represent groundedness to us, and soul. So I love you dearly.
thanks.
As you talk about passion. You talked about your kids' passions, and it is interesting if we had more time to explore how they all went the art's way.
Mm.
And you're going to credit David with that, but I think it's more than that. Taking your family out of it, if it's possible, and home out of it today, right now, what's your passion?
My passion. My passion really is family, family, and family. It's just I get such joy and from watching all of it around me. It's kind of like when they said Moses didn't get to go into the promised land, but he watched,
Mm.
and I think that was enough for him to just watch what his people were doing. I feel the same way. It's like I'm just that's my passion. I do a million things. I read and I do my felting dolls and oh, by the way, when you mentioned, it was so interesting when we had a Friday night Shabbat and you asked people way back, how's everyone doing? Are you doing, feeling, you know, satisfied? And I was doing fine. Like I said, I'm in the house and I'm doing a million things, but I knew something was missing. And and as soon as I knew something was missing, I said, I'm not doing enough with this election. That was something that was like so important to me. And I'm not political, but I became very political. I read everything and so because of you, I ordered those, and it didn't help, but I ordered those postcards and I wrote 200 postcards to Kentucky. And
I've
and
got 40 here for you for Georgia if you want them. I still have them. Do you want me to drop them off?
absolutely.
Okay, I have them sitting here for you. They're supposed to
And
go out yesterday, but
oh,
I'm going out in a little bit. I'll drop them off for sure.
put them in my mailbox.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you found that as a passion. You
It
jumped
wasn't
on
a
board.
passion. It was just I felt like I
Need.
wasn't doing it. Like washing my family wasn't enough, and doing my felting wasn't enough, and baking wasn't enough, and you know organizing wasn't enough, and talking to my kids wasn't there was something missing, and that kind of made me feel like I did something.
I want to stay with that image of Moses overlooking and watching the kids and and the people go, and you staying back but not really. May you live to be 120. Number one,
Anna
like
said
Moses.
Anna said that to my internist. She says, "I want you to keep this woman alive." You know,
Okay, so I want to leave with this. Your last words to everybody here. I want a Lindaism.
oh no.
Give me a Lindaism. I'm not going to tell you which one. I don't want the one you gave at your adult bat mitzvah, which I still shudder when I think of it. Not your speech of that group, and I'm so glad you're all still together.
Yeah,
Um, uh, and I do wish I could have a do over with you all, because I think it'd be much different now that I'm older. Um,
and we are older and
yeah.
more.
Not that it was it was a fantastic experience, but I want to give us a Lindaism to leave by.
I don't know. I just
Oh, one popped into your head, darn it. Say it. I don't care what it is. Just
I,
say it.
nothing. Just I can't think of anything because you put me on the on the spot. Just just be true to yourself, and then just love.
Hmm.
Just do a lot of loving. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Thanks for
And
the time. Oh, you
thank
had
you.
one more. And what? And what? Say
Uh, and be a little edgy.
it.
Ruth Marks, be a little edgy.
Be a little edgy. I'll let her know you say that. We'll see. We'll see if they watched it. If we get the comment from it.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for making the effort, and love you.
Love you too.
All right. That's the end of this episode of Points of the Circle. Until next time, everyone, take care.